Today, and joining us live is Ricardo Baretzky, President of the European Centre for Information Policy and Security. Mr. Baretzky, hi there. Thank you for being with us. As I say, we're going on this anonymous leak today from somebody who's a part of that official investigation. Apparently has had access to the what have been described as small body parts, but the official line still very much is that there is no conclusive evidence here as to what brought that plane down. However, top officials from a number of countries did earlier speak about the potential of a terrorist attack as the likeliest cause, and we heard again, I can't quite remember the actual line, but yeah, all hypotheses are being examined, but common sense would say, the logical explanation would say it was an explosion that brought it down. Do you agree?
To a certain extent, I say this is a possibility, but let's say hypothetically it's true that there was a terror attack. Well, then it raised two fundamental important questions. Well, it means A, there's a security problem in Europe that is seriously undermined, and B, that terrorists has developed an inside-out approach of attack. I hope, of course, this is not the case. I still maintain that this is possibly not a terror attack and more likely to be error. But we have to look at the real sides of this. The danger here is when politicians begin to use what we call weasel words to try to solve this problem instead of giving to the fact. And above all, what we are experiencing in the last few weeks is particularly the silencing of experts like ourselves to raise our voice about issues and such issues on the public domain. We have to really pay attention here what's going on. Either there's something really seriously about it going to happen in the future and the public is unaware, or there's simply a lack of understanding who is really the experts around. And the danger here is that when I mix these two issues, particularly when there's no terrorist organization claiming responsibility.
That's key as well, isn't it? That's key, because normally after these kind of things, we hear there's a lot of chatter online, and we hear in this particular case, according to initial reports anyway, people monitoring that kind of thing. The news going around was that there wasn't any chatter. No one's actually come forward yet to say that they've done that. That must be remembered.
Correct. And then that's why I brought up the second point, that if terrorists has developed an inside-out approach of attack, that would mean there's a cell active within Europe. It could be a new type of cell that they're unaware of. It could be a cell that doesn't claim responsibility. And the danger is if that is...
But I was going to say as well, sir, you know, planes, especially modern-day planes these days, Airbuses, Boeing 737s, Airbuses A320 series, they rarely fall out of the sky for no reason. If it was a fire, the hypothesis is 3 minutes is quite it would have to be a pretty hefty fire to bring a plane down in 3 minutes for it to lose all the control. If it was a bomb, it must have been a pretty small bomb, because normally it would have brought that plane down very quickly. Although we go back to that Dallo Airlines flight that had a hole blown out the side and still managed to get back down safely. But, of course, people are going to point their finger at this because the travelling public, they want to feel safe when they're going up in the sky. They do go through so much security.
Well, you're absolutely right. You know, there is, of course, other possibilities that we are aware of that could, of course, these kind of explosions, particularly with fuel, which could explain very possibly the debris. But at the moment, what is fundamentally important is that if terrorists has developed an inside-out attack approach, then the fact remains that they have neglected the future warnings that was written on the walls for the last 2 years. And we really hope that's not the case. Is this going to play a role in safety in traveling? Absolutely. I wouldn't feel safe on a plane flying to Egypt. You wouldn't. Nobody would. The important part is here.
Well, that's an overstatement. Well, you say you wouldn't feel safe travelling on a plane, a standard commercial carrier, going to Egypt at the moment. Is that really the case?
Well, let me explain to you the situation at the moment. Right? There's a lot of information on the surface ground, and there's also the information that is sort of beneath the surface, mostly in open source data, that indicates very strongly that there's some breeding movement and a tension between the certain regions, which indicates that there will be in the future almost certainly an increase in terror attacks. And this has not only been confirmed by us, it's been confirmed by other studies, particularly from US and Russia too, in particular. So the danger here is that Airports has a responsibility to make sure that the people on those planes are safe, and they have a responsibility that the staff is not on any terror watch list. If they knew people is on terror watch list, why keep them on there in the first place?
Do they keep them on there? Well, you know more than me about this, do they? We did hear that there was a worry about this. We did hear at that very airport, indeed, and other airports as well, where that plane had visited, that a number of security staff, it's believed, did have connections maybe to ISIS, etc., and they had been dismissed. In fact, there were thousands of them, according to some reports. These people, I mean, how much security do these people go through, bearing in mind they're often not particularly well paid, and I suppose there's quite a high churn? How far do you go into the background of these people?
Well, let me explain to you about the security process to become a security officer in Europe as a whole. At present, most of them doesn't need a particular qualification. The screening is very limited, it's only regional based. It's not done on international level, it's not done through the FBI database or any of the other wanted database. It's a national screening process. So there's no possibility of them knowing who is really working in any airport at this point in time. I would challenge them to show me the evidence, because we know it's not the fact. Right? The databases existing at the moment has less than 300 real entries, and in all of Europe there's less than 360,000 real entries on this list. So show us the data.
There's something else I wanted to ask you as well. Charles de Gaulle Airport, yeah, we've talked about the criticism there that's come in for. Now, earlier on that plane, of course, as they often do, they go on many sectors in a day. We heard earlier on it had been to Tunisia. What's the security situation like there and the airports?
Sorry, can you just repeat the last question?
That plane earlier on had been in an earlier sector to Tunisia. What's the security situation like there regarding its airports?
Well, there's certain parts that's better in Europe, certain parts that's worse. For example, Belgium has stepped up rapidly, as we know, but there still needs the things. Netherlands has they've always had a reasonable good security system. The problem here is not as a whole, the checking points. The problem is once a terrorist is on a plane and he is in a transit where he doesn't have to get off the plane, which is often the case, then that doesn't really matter. All they're looking for is exploiting the opening points where they can get on board. And if they get on board, they can literally go anywhere. The danger here is that if they do not pay attention, and this was a new type of development, they could be facing another 9/11. And that's a real serious concern that we should ask, well, is this a real possibility? And who is going to take responsibility if this happened? Because they all knew these problems are coming.
So thanks for being with us. We appreciate your time today. I don't know if we can beg a little more of your time. We'd like to keep you on the line and come back to you in just a minute while we go through some other stories. Maybe have a quick chat to you again then. There's some more details coming in. If you could stay with us, I'd be ever so grateful. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
So the Egyptair crash comes, of course, less than 6 months after a terror attack brought down that plane over the Egyptian Sinai Peninsula. The Metrojet plane, Islamic State terrorists said they carried out that attack, which killed all 224 on board. The majority of victims were Russian holidaymakers. The plane was heading from the Egyptian resort of Sharm el-Sheikh to the Russian city of St. Petersburg at the time. After that incident, Russia imposed a ban on all flights to Europe. Egypt, rather. Ricardo Baretzky again. We're just showing our viewers those awful pictures and reminding them of an awful scenario with that Metrojet plane over Sinai. Again, we started our chat minutes back saying you can't really speculate here, but of course as a news organisation you do look into the facts that you're presented with at the time to try and explore all avenues, but none of this is official. But are there any similarities you see there just from your very loose dealings with these two awful incidents? Any similarities between what happened to that Metrojet plane and what happened to this Egyptair plane?
it's again, as you know, I hate to speculate, but hypothetically, there's always a possibility that things are related at this point in time. We have seen the possibility of risk in the past where incidents with airplanes are related to some point in time without much evidence, of course, but there's been a lot of point. But what we have to really seriously look at here is where is this going to end? And we have to look at who is the people responsible for bringing across public safety and order, not only in Europe, but in the entire community internationally. And one thing we have to seriously pay attention is, why is the experts being silenced to talk? I'm fully aware of the situation at this moment. Of course, it needs for a separate debate. But why is the experts being silent to talk? And that is something really important that the media has to ask.
Ricardo Baretzky, thank you for your time and thank you for being with us today as we continue to examine all aspects of this story that, of course, is still very much under official investigation. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Welcome. Thanks, Mike.